Hi friends, it's been a while. So in my last video I was talking about how we are hatching some new chicks, and if you've watched any of my shorts you'll see that this week we did hatch 7 new babies. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process for our first time and some of my thoughts about it. So at the end of the video, I'll just put some clips from the hatching, from the brooder setup, from everything. And if you want to watch that, great. If not, you can skip through and fast forward parts. I'm not going to be talking in this whole video, those clips in the end. But to jump right in, 21 days ago, so it takes about 21 days for a chicken egg to hatch. So we started the process during the last video, and we took 10 eggs from our chickens. We have Rhode Island Reds only, and we put them in the incubator. And the process is about 7 days. At 7 days and 14 days, you're supposed to do it. It's called candling the eggs, which is basically just taking the egg and holding it up to a light to see if it's been fertilized. At the 7-day mark, we tried to do it, and we found that the eggshells were so thick we couldn't see anything through it, and we made the decision not to do any candling. So we tried to candle 1 or 2 eggs, didn't have any success with it, so we just decided to leave them in, all 10 eggs in, and see what happened. I don't know if it's sound practice or not to not candle the eggs. I don't see a problem with it, other than at the end of when everything was hatching, whether the eggs were viable or not, we didn't know. But that's the only downside I could see to it. A couple days ago, I guess before the hatching, at I think it's 18 days, you take the turner out of the incubator so it no longer turns and moves the eggs, and so they can start breaking out usually at 21 days. But a couple days now, we had our first egg that hatched, and it was 2:10 in the morning. We were keeping our incubator on the kitchen table, and we live in a 1-level house, so our bedroom is right off the kitchen. So at 2:10 in the morning, my husband woke me up and said, "I hear chirping. I think we have a chick." And we didn't want to turn the lights on, so to like scare it or anything. We didn't know what was going on, so we just kind of went out there in the dark and listened to the peeping. And I've got a video that I'll show, that I'll probably include in at the end of this video of that. It's just dark, you can just hear me talking. So we got our first one in the middle of the night, and then we didn't have another chick for over 12 hours. So that one was just on its own. It's kind of funny to watch it in the incubator all by itself. It basically, when they're first out of the shell, they kind of come out woozy and almost looking drunk and stumbly. And then they start to learn how to use their legs. And because I think this one was bored, being the only one out, it would like literally just roll over all the eggs and trample things and move them all around. It was actually quite funny to watch. I joked with my husband, and it actually almost reminded me of the movie Passengers. So if you've seen it, it's where Chris Pratt is out in space and he gets woken up, and he's the only one on the ship, and he wakes up Jennifer Lawrence, and she doesn't know that he did it on purpose, kind of thing. And so it kind of reminded me of that, like she just wants everyone else to wake up and will almost do whatever it takes to get them out of their shells. So we have one that was born in the middle of the night. The next 4 were all born probably within an hour of each other the next afternoon. So I don't remember the timestamps, but it was probably late afternoon. We were taking bets on, there was 2 of them that had cracks in the shells that looked like they were about to come out. My husband and I were taking bets on which one of the 2 would show up first. They showed up within probably 5 or 10 minutes of each other. And then, so that made 3. And then the next 2 basically, actually one came out probably 30 minutes after. We were kind of expecting that. And then later in the evening, the 5th one popped out. And we didn't even know. We were off in the other room doing other things. And I went in to go and check on them. And I was like, oh, we have one that was just born. So it was fun watching them come out of their shells. And the whole process. Peyton, we're not going to bark. We're not going to bark, buddy. And then when we went to bed that night, we saw that there was 2 more shells that had like little pips, I guess they're called maybe. They had little breakage in them, so we figured those were probably viable. And so we went to bed with 5 chicks. When we woke up in the morning, we did have 2 more in there. So we have 7 new chicks altogether. We checked the rest of the eggs, the other 3 eggs in there, and there was no visible signs of any kind of shell breakage or anything. So we ended up tossing those out, and when my husband broke them open, he said there was nothing in them. They just kind of looked like they were rotting from the inside. So I don't know if you guys have watched my earlier videos where back in February or March, we ordered chicks from Chicks Online, and they were mailed to us. And this whole process was so much better than getting chicks in the mail. Maybe because it was only February or March, but getting the chicks in the mail, they come to you almost traumatized. They're lacking food and water. They're just, it was cold then. And so these chicks that we have now are so healthy and so rambunctious. And they're fun, and they're only a few days old. And so last time we also, because it was so cold when we got them, we also had the brooder set up in our house, and we do not right now. Our garage has been cleared out, the back corner has been cleared out, and we've got them set up in the brooder back there. So the similar little setup like we had the first time around. We redid some things in there, and when I say we, my husband redid the brooder. I did not. So I just kind of go in and visit them and check on them, and so does he, but he's the handy one around the house more so. So he set up the brooder, and we have about half the chicks we had the first time around, so this time it should be big enough for all of them. But it's warm here during the days, and during the nights we have the heat on in there, so they're fine. They're full of life. They're fun chicks. Obviously, they're so little that we don't know at this point if they're male or female, but we'll go take a walk down to the garage now, and I'll show you where they are. And after showing you that, we're gonna jump right into the clips from the last week, showing you the hatching process and everything. And let me know your thoughts. I mean, it feels so far like this has been successful. And why did we do this? As an experiment. I don't know. We've talked about hatching chicks to sell. We'll probably actually build a bigger coop so we can have more chickens of our own. We'll eventually probably sell the eggs too. Just additional ways to generate some income and support kind of the homesteading lifestyle that we are trying to build here. So let me go take you down to the garage. I thank you for watching and supporting my channel, and hopefully I've got some more both homesteading and reselling content coming out soon. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate y'all following along. Bye. All right, friends, so this is the brooder setup. We are in the back corner of the garage. We've got them with the lid on in there. And we've got a little heater going on down here. So it's toasty in here. Hi, little ones. All right, here we go. You can say hi to everybody. Say hi, everybody. Hey, little ones. Yeah. Hi, babies. So 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7th one under. But they are so much more aware and vibrant than the first batch of chickens that we ordered. Good morning, everybody. It is about 2:10 in the morning, and I just got woken up out of a dead sleep because we heard chirps coming from the kitchen. I don't know if you can hear it. But we've got one chicken here that has hatched. We'll wait to see if any of the other 9 hatch in the next day or 2. I'm going back to bed though.